When our core wounds meet the physical world, it offers us the opportunity to heal from the trauma and the emotional wear and tear we have endured in this lifetime. How many core wounds are there to heal? In this podcast series, we will talk about them all, healing the emotional core wounding, including the mother wound, the primal wound, so we can walk in our medicine to be the healers that we all are. Join podcast host, confidence coach Susan Axelrod with her very special guest, Kornelia Stephanie. This podcast is one for the ages, living beyond the core wounds.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the part 2 episode of our discussion on the core wound of abandonment. I hope that you will listen to part 1 of this very, very important conversation. One of the things that we talked about was going from abandonment to safety. And this is in your control. Simply by doing an exercise that Kornelia is teaching us in these podcast conversations, putting yourself in charge. I wrote down what she suggested to us last time, which is this: ask your inner self what she needs, and then make sure she gets her needs met. From abandonment to safety, we want to feel safe. We want to feel secure. And I am delighted, as always, to welcome my dear friend, my special guest, my co-host in this very important podcast series. Kornelia, this idea that you have taught us, that you can ask your inner self what she needs and then make sure she gets her needs met. This is what I call game-changing, friend.
I love that so much. Even hearing it back now, I love that so much. And this is part of our healing. This is part of our becoming whole, becoming our own inner parents, healing the wounded inner child, listening to what it is that you need. You know, I don't know if you remember this, Susan, but you were with me during the time when two of my friends, like actually it was clients and friends, you know how we have clients and friends become clients and were experiencing the loss of their sons.
I know.
And remember when my friend lost her son, right? And to suicide. And then when I was there for her during the time that I was there for her, going through that deep, deep grief, that deep loss about all of that, right? And so there was a time for like, I remember the first day when I showed up at her house, and she has, 3 other kids and their spouses and the grandchildren and all the people that were there. There were about 13 people in that house that were all experiencing emotional shock. And then to walk in and be fully present, to really be with all of these people that are experiencing emotional shock, severe trauma, and to be fully present, that was what I was doing, is to really be there and just be there and listen and to hold space while these people were going through this deep, deep grief process and this shock that they lost their brother, that they lost their son, that they lost their beloved, right?
Yeah.
And I remember, going through that process, and I remember like after like about a month was, over, I was scheduled to go on vacation, and I had really looked forward to that vacation prior to that experience happening, when all of a sudden one day, as I was getting closer to the vacation coming, one day I was feeling like I don't want to go on vacation. And so with the process of asking myself, what do you need? That's the point that I'm trying to make with this story, is that what do you really need right now? What do you really need? Now, mind you, the schedule was made. You're going on vacation. You were looking forward to it. It was all great. And yeah, normally under normal circumstances, you would want to go. But I all of a sudden had the feeling I don't want to go. And so then I asked myself, what do you really need? This is what we mean by listening to what your needs are and then giving that to yourself
Right.
and giving yourself what it is that you need. And so when I asked myself the question, what do you really need? The answer that came back is I need processing time. I need quiet time to myself. I need to be alone. I need space and time. And I don't feel like going on vacation right now and being in vacation mode.
Right.
What I really need. Yeah.
So I just want to say to our viewers and to our listeners, this is a tool. This is a tool. This is a tool that you can use. The tools that Kornelia and I both have developed and evolved from our own experiences, from our own needs. So whatever I teach, whatever she teaches, we're in great synergy in this way. The tools that we are offering here through our discussions are designed to be an option, an opportunity for you if it speaks to you as a tool. So that the simple tool of getting quiet for a minute and asking myself, what do I really need right now? This is a tool, and I want to make sure people understand what it is that you're offering them here today, Cornelia. So, also, what happens often is that it's hard to get quiet enough to hear an answer, and we have to be in self-trust to feel an answer, to believe what the answer might be. You might, for example, somebody else might be like, well, what do you mean you heard that now is not a good time for vacation? So to trust that, to believe it. Now, the core issue of abandonment that we're discussing today actually is relevant here, because in order to be in the space of trusting yourself, feeling the answer, and responding in kind, you have to be in safety and security, no?
Yes, you do. And this is all part of, I've been living like this for a long time. I've been cultivating that relationship with myself, that deep inner listening, that deep inner healing, parenting myself and really asking myself, what is it that I need right now, has been a tool and a question that, we as coaches, as mentors, are good at asking our clients, but really becoming good at asking yourself, what is it that you really need right now? What can I offer you that is going to support you next right now? What do you need? Because when the feeling came that I really don't want to go on vacation, that was a clear sign. Oh, I'm not excited about this. Oh, I don't want to go. That was a clear sign to where, well, there's something that you need right now that I can give you. And that is part of, we talked about this in the mother series, becoming the mother core wounding, becoming so good at giving yourself what it is that you need. There were people on the other end of my vacation that were looking to meet me there. I was even faced with having to say to them, I'm not coming, and all of that, right? And that's okay, because I am all about providing and giving myself what it is that I need. I'm not projecting it out onto another person, expecting another person to give me what it is that I need, because I'm fully capable and able to listen and ask. If I need help, right? Then of course, then you can ask where you need help. But that's the thing. And we're talking about going within, we're talking about living your life in trust. And people hire me to reclaim their life and live their life in trust and live beyond the emotional core wounding of their past. That's what we're talking about. And just the other day, I was doing a session with a woman who is actually a recurring person that comes to me periodically when she is in going through a process, when she's ready to claim the next level of power, inner power. She comes and she'll then do a session and she'll really get it. This particular one was about abandonment. So she was feeling the abandonment, and throughout our session, she mentioned, that I felt abandoned by my father. I felt abandoned by my father was always gone. I felt abandoned now by my lover. My lover has broken up with me and is leaving, and I just found out that I'm pregnant. So I told her, I said, what an opportune time for you to heal this abandonment core wound once and for all, because you have now a baby in the womb, and you could even call it your baby that's in the womb, but also your inner child is also healing at the same time. And it's absolutely essential that the baby feels secure in the womb, safe and secure. That's not dealing with these abandonment issues, because think about the feelings that all brings up, right? Think about all the feelings. And, the work that personally I've done on my own inner child healing, I found myself in the womb when my mother was pregnant with me. And at the time, my mother didn't want me. And those are feelings that I had to deal with later in my life.
I mean, I'm just reminding you, I keep looking down because I have pages of notes from our these conversations, because I'm participating and learning in real time and taking notes myself, just as I encourage our viewers and our listeners to do. And the last time you helped us to understand something about the story you just shared with us, which was that abandonment leads to abandonment. So the connection of my partner leaving me now was connected to my father leaving me, or not being there for me, or whatever it was that you said. So then last time we talked about how if something, or maybe it was in our conversation about betrayal, I believe it was, which was if you're constantly being, betrayed, or feeling that you're betrayed, then that emotional core wound is not healed. Likewise, now we have the father, now we have the partner, and now we have the opportunity that you're talking about, where I love what you said, which is I experience this in my work as well. The client comes back periodically when she's ready to clear more.
Yeah, because again, it's a process and it takes time. It doesn't mean that you're going to do it all at once, but one by one, this woman is claiming her empowerment. And I know that. And I know she's going to make one fantastic mother because of the self-care and nurturing that she's giving herself. But I can tell you right now, she has a big decision to make, because is she going to be allowed by her partner to continue on the dynamics that are playing out, especially now because she's pregnant. And that right there can be the storyline. Well, I was pregnant, I needed this partner, all of that, all the things, right, that we would say to go back to a relationship that abandoned us, right, like that. So the main thing is that I said, from this moment forward, from this day forward, we are releasing this abandonment core wound from the past. And really, she tracked it back to her father, but you can even track it back as far as, how do you feel about God or your higher power or source? Do you feel abandoned by God? Do you feel abandoned by source? Because the father, in the father energy, because again, that's how far back it goes. But we're talking about living beyond the core wounding of our past. And this is really clearly in our past. The situation that happened with her is in her past, because we are here now. And so we get to choose, do we want to continue on this cycle of abandonment, betrayal, not good enough, victim consciousness, being separated from source, shame energies, disempowerment? Do we want to continue that on, or do we want to rise above it and move beyond it? we talked about this in our conversation. I think it was on LinkedIn, because you were talking about this upcoming series, and I shared how important it is to really dive into the emotional core wound through our experience, and then use our wisdom and our consciousness to rise up out of it and beyond it. Now, since we cleared this part with my client the other day, this does not mean that she's not going to be tested every single day. Choose her safety and security as the new program.
Well, that sucks. So this is really important, when you talk about healing the core wound. This is very interesting, and I'm so glad that we just hit on this. Healing, what we're talking about is living beyond the core wound. Healing through does not mean you will never be faced with it again. It just means, if I call back to another episode that we did, the first episode on betrayal, where you showed us two pies, right? Two circles. I call them pies. And one of them was filled with the energy of betrayal, with you in the middle. And the other one had you in the middle, and it was all clear. And so it was going from betrayal to trust, to living in trust. And likewise, this would be abandonment, where you're in the cocoon, the circle of abandonment, with all the energy, right? And then you move to the energy field that with you that is clear, such that when you're faced with the challenge of it again, you move through it more quickly, more gracefully, more smoothly.
When you heal the emotional core wound of not worthy, when you heal that, and then you're presented, you released it, you let it go, you're healing that, you had the self-realization, oh, right, I used to make choices that I wasn't worthy and that I wasn't good enough, and I used to make choices that reflected that belief. Now I'm going to make choices that reflect the belief of I am worthy. So then when I go to that job interview and I apply for that job interview, and I'm claiming my value, I'm claiming my worth, that you're going to be faced with, are you going to stay in the lower programming, or will you remember that you chose on this day the self-realization of, I moved beyond this core wound. I am now living and acting from the I am worthy. I deserve this. I'm now living and acting from the I am secure. I will never abandon myself again. I am now living and acting from trust, because I released betrayal out of the construct. It's a program. It's a subconscious program that was, embedded in your subconscious through your early life experience, and maybe even before you incarnated. So the whole point that I'm making is that we're living beyond the core wounds here in the new earth. Once we have healed our inner child wounds, and we're healing the core wounding that kept us in limitation and suffering and all the things and trauma, then we're realizing, oh, I don't want to abandon myself again. I don't want to experience abandonment again by anyone, because I'm in charge. I'm at the helm. I'm here. I'm not going to leave myself. I'm not going to abandon myself. That's the clearing work, the commitment and dedication. And then when life experiences happen, you're making the choice. I'm secure in myself. I trust myself. I honor myself.
So this is this is a class, what we're doing here. And I went back in my own notes to remind myself that the conversation we had about the I'm not worthy core wound, the opposite of which is, of course, I am worthy, from I'm not worthy to I am worthy, was our very first episode after our introductory episode.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was part one of I'm Not Worthy, was early on in our podcast series. this idea that you could actually say the words to yourself, I don't want to experience that core wound again. I'm not experiencing that. I healed through that. I addressed it. I did the work. I made a decision. I planted my flag in this ground of, in this case, we're talking about abandonment. I am safe. I am secure. I am not abandoned. It takes some of this work that we're talking about. You and I, Kornelia, we've been having an ongoing conversation recently about courage. And so I guess I want to ask you or say it takes a little courage to address a core wound, to, uh, what do I say, admit to abandonment, or to acknowledge, maybe is a better word, that there might have been abandonment in your past. And we're talking about, like you said, that was past and we're now. So do you know what I mean by this?
Yeah, it does take courage because you most likely will be feeling pain around it. And
Mm.
any person that is going to do that deep inner healing and really be released from it, you must have the courage to feel the pain, to go through it, like you said, to really move beyond it. Even with my client the other day, while we were processing, while we were realizing, because again, it comes down to you, the person, realizing self-realization, self-actualization. You realize this is your trauma from the past. You don't want to have these experiences anymore, because why are you having those experiences? You're having them so your soul can grow and that you can heal. That's really it. That's why you're having them. So have you not grown? You can ask yourself, or maybe I'll have 2 or 3 more abandonment experiences coming up. You could ask that, do you need that? Because in the end, you're going to come to the same realization anyway. I don't want to have this anymore.
That's
I
awesome. I love how funny, uh, in an ironic way, that is, that you could say to yourself, well, if I'm not quite ready to heal through and do the emotional processing to live beyond the core wounds, in this case, we're talking about abandonment, then you could say to yourself, well, how many more am I willing to live through? Am I willing to live through 2 more episodes of abandonment, 200 more episodes of abandonment? What's it going to take to live beyond the core wounds?
And guess what? And the thing about it is, whatever the person chooses is fine. Hello, it's fine because it's their choice. I always think about this is how God, how the source, how the divine supports us with the choices that we make. We get to choose how we move through our own healing, how we move through our own karma, how we move through our own life, and that we are full. That's free will. We get to choose. So if we want to stay in addiction, if we want to stay in trauma, if we want to have these experiences and self-sabotage, we get to choose. But ultimately, we're going to come back to the disconnection that we felt from God in the first place and heal that core wound, which
Oh,
this is,
we're gonna be getting there later in our series. That's the big one. Okay, so another thing I want to bring up that I've learned from you, Kornelia, and that you've helped me with so much because you keep reminding me of it, is this. We just talked about courage. We said that it does take courage because sometimes there may be pain around addressing a core wounding. And then what I want to help our viewers and our listeners understand is this is when we very importantly go back to the mother wound, right? The mother wound was that where you become your own mother, where you can use the beautiful, feminine, nurturing, loving energy to show up for yourself. And that's what you say to me often, Kornelia, is this is the divine nurturing feminine that you're in right now, that you're giving yourself that space to be in, to be emotional, to be crying, to love yourself, to do less, to be less, whatever it is. And so, especially, well, I guess I want to say, especially with abandonment, we go from abandonment to safety, to security, to feeling safe and secure. And we can invoke that beautiful, nurturing feminine energy to do that.
And Susan, this is so true. Everything, yes, that you said, that beautiful feminine energy. Because think about this: if you have a child, a little child, and the child falls down, falls off of a bike or something like that, and the blood is on the knee and scrape their knee and they're bleeding or whatever. What does the mother do? The mother lovingly picks up that child. Oh, it's okay, it's okay. You're going to be okay. While the child cries and while the child releases. It's that kind of energy when we're talking about emotional processing and the pain. It's bleeding. Sometimes it's painful. And then holding yourself and loving yourself and nurturing yourself as the mother would do with that child. You're just doing it invisibly with your inner child. That's why that's always sometimes, so hard to believe that it's healed or it's done, or because you're doing that inner work. And that's why, the quote, the world is an inside job, peace is an inside job, love is an inside job. That really truly is the co-creation of our new earth, because it is your physical body that is, once you've moved through all of those traumas and pains and horrors, even self-hatred of your past, because a lot of times, at the root core of addiction is a self-hate.
Self-loathing, yes.
Yeah, self-hate. I hate myself, right? And so, because you're talking to a former addict, I had to get there myself. I hated myself. So then to replace that self-hate with radical self-love, that's all. That's all. That's it. And that has to be the fuel then. That has to be the choosing, not the addiction, not the behavior. So, but the point that we're making here with this series is that we all have the ability to heal, in our ascension, that we can heal and move beyond it. We already have all the tools that we need within. Everything that we need. Are we willing to sit and feel and move through the process? And we don't have to wait, for more and more experiences to have that abandonment again and again. You can, but you don't have to. You can choose to be done with it today.
Well, full reveal, friends. I can't remember even now, because I'm sure I parked it somewhere far away. Kornelia recently said to me, myself, Susan, when you're ready to heal that core wound, I will support you. I think this was a recent conversation we had. I don't even remember the details, because I went into like, oh no, I don't want to. What's that going to take? But I'm here to say that that this stuff really works. It's powerful. I want to again invite our viewers and our listeners to listen to this conversation again. Listen to the tools that are embedded within. Listen to the words, the suggestions, the empowerment that could come if you could imagine that you actually could heal yourself. But yes, I guess I'm struggling with it, Kornelia. I want it to be easy. I want it to be free from pain. I want it to be a lot of things. But I, having been doing the inner work so much myself, I know that it does take courage to show up for yourself in this way. Kornelia, how does it look for someone to work with you?
So people that are ready to really fully release their emotional wounds from the past, they can message me. They can text me on my phone, 360-941-5783. And you can just say, I'm ready. and then we can say the dialogue. We can start the dialogue there. So basically, we would get on a call and we would talk about, just like I did with one of my reoccurring persons the other day when she came, and right away I said, "What brings us on this call today?" And she said, "What brings me here is that I'm dealing with abandonment issues right now, and I would like to heal them." So it was that got us started, and so then now we released fully the abandonment, moving into safety and security, and that's her new template now that she's operating from, because she has the realization, she made the choice that I'm not going to abandon myself anymore. I see why I did this. I see why I attracted these experiences into my life. I see why it was there, and I see my neediness, and I see my neediness. I see my codependency. I see that because I needed that experience in order to see and really feel what it feels like to be left and abandoned. What am I going to do? And especially now that she was pregnant. So that kind of thing. But whatever the emotional core wounding is, because we have more than one, sometimes there is many. But so healing the inner child. So people can contact me for those
And I
sessions.
want to say that for anybody who is watching the video or listening to the podcast, there may be something that you heard that resonated with you. You don't have to know which core wound it is. My type A just kicked in, Cornelia, my old former type A. She shows herself sometimes still when it serves. And that was, well, what if I don't know what the core wound is? And that's why I want to say very clearly that you don't have to know what the name of a core wound is. But if something that either of us has said resonates with you, then you can contact Cornelia and say, I heard you say this, and that resonates with me. I want to explore this a little bit more.
Well, and not only that, but a person can very easily come to me and basically say, I want to live beyond the emotional core wounding. Then I intuitively, I will give you exactly the perfect question that's going to, bring that wound up to the surface. So this is the embodiment of that work. And that's why I can tell you that you can live beyond the pain of your past. You can live beyond the trauma. And that is possible. Just like any other event that has been painful for you in the past that you've cleared and released and let go of, you basically can't even remember that level of pain. You come to a place where you can't even remember what it was like because you've released it and you've let it go.
So beautiful. Cornelia, we're at the end of another episode. Honestly, friends, I want to invite you to stay tuned and stay with us on this podcast series. The next conversation we're going to have is about the core wound of shame. Cornelia, thank you as always, and looking forward to our next conversation.